Hello, welcome back to Tibian's Garage. I am Tibian, and today it's going to be just um, filming bits and pieces of what I've done. These are going to be thrown together to make the first official part one of the MGB project. So, first I'm going to go over a bit of what I've done already that I just wasn't able to film, either because I'm not very good at filming or because I didn't film it. So I have a order here that I got from British Parts Northwest, which is my British parts supplier of choice currently. Um, I have a fuel tank filler hose for 78 to 80. Again, mine is a 76. This is the part number if you need that. You can find all this on British Parts Northwest. I have some axle limiting straps for MGB and midget from 75 to 80. There's the part number if you need that. Now these are, if you come down here, these straps right here bolt to the chassis and to the carrier bolts for the leaf springs. Now what these do is these prevent the axle from going too far down when the car is jacked up, and that is because the exhaust is under the axle. And you can probably tell that one is pretty shot. So axle limiting straps were in order, and they're honestly not that expensive. I think they were like $14. Um, not not a pretty penny. Then I have the set of forget what they call them, tank fitting straps. Now the tank has these rubber straps that lay across the top of the tank to isolate it from the floor for vibration, for rattling, for protection of metal rubbing or not rubbing. Um, and those obviously were very crispy, and so those are now replaced. I have a new fuel tank sending unit, original equipment, and there's the part number for that. This is 65 through 77. And as you can tell, this one matches up to my original. Oops. And point the camera in the right direction. You can tell it matches up to the original. I believe it does need to be calibrated. I will have to learn how to do that and then do that. Otherwise, my gauge possibly will be reading wrong. But we'll get to that. I have the Seal fuel filler neck for 63 through 76. Part number for that. This is what seals around the filler neck in the body right here. The old one is also a bit crispy. Then I have the Seal fuel tank neck MGB Sprite midget. There's the part number for that. This is just a foam ring that goes around the tank collar, which will be pressed up against right here. When the tank collar comes up through here, the filler neck collar, when it comes up through here, this will be pressed against that, and that will seal out debris, air, water, what have you. That was very important. The other one was also crispy. The new fuel tank, that is a baffled tank. This is actually the older style. I don't have mine next to me right now, my original. But the older style has an angled collar and a separate from a separate pickup tube from the sending unit. My MGB, the 76 model, has the new style, which is straight up and down, about this tall, just straight out. This is angled, mine is straight, which is the new style. And mine has the separate one, which is why I got this. The new style, 77 after, this is straight. This is incorporated into, or integrated into the sending unit. There's a different sending unit for the later models. So I can't use that later model because I would have nothing to hook my sending or my pickup tube to from the pump. So I got the older style, which means I'll have to, that's why I got the new rubber, because this is different, but I can play with that. I needed that. This also has a drain plug, which is fantastic for numerous reasons. The tank also comes with a lock ring and lock ring gasket seal, whatever you would like to call it. Because the sending unit does not come with the gasket. Not this one anyway. There is one that does come with it, and it was not available, so I didn't buy it. Next, I have the Lucas brand brake pad fitting kit, which is the pad clips and new pins. Part number for that, for MGB TR8. No year, because I believe the brake calipers stayed the same, pretty similar through all the years. And some new brake pads. Now these are TRW, get it in the frame, TRW, and these are ceramic. These are the premium, the best you can buy for this car. MGB convertible, MGB GT, Vauxhall Cresta. We don't even have those in the States. And I'm not exactly sure where on here. These are also, well, it says Lucas, but these are TRW. I'm not exactly sure where the part number is on here, but you get the picture. So, that is what I have. Obviously, the new fuel tank. I will be installing the limiting straps. I will be installing the tank and sending unit back into the back. I will be doing the brake pads, and I haven't done bleeding yet because I wanted to do the bleeding when I did the pads, because that way I wouldn't have to take the calipers back off. Just do it once. So I will do the bleeding. If you don't know how to bleed brakes, you can either look up a video or you're about to learn. Now I did bleed the clutch already. That one was just too difficult for me to film while under the car in bright sunlight, because I do not have an ND filter for my phone yet. Because yes, I film all these with my phone. So I don't have a filter, and so the light was just too bright, and I was unable to get any clean video, and you would have been unable to really see anything. So bleeding the clutch is pretty simple. I got the idea for it. You bleed these differently from brakes, because brakes, when you bleed them, the calipers press together on the rotor and stop, and then you build pressure. With a clutch, you're pushing against the pressure plate, which is a spring or series of. So you never really build pressure because you push in and the pressure plate gives back. So you never build pressure. You are just compressing the spring. So you never really, you can't bleed it effectively the same way you would bleed brakes. I get the idea for how I bled mine from a channel on YouTube called, I believe it's Red Scorpion 6. I will link his channel. I don't know him personally, but I will link his channel. he explains it very well on how to bleed these uh, master cylinder or slave cylinders rather. He bleeds it backwards from the slave. I will link his channel and I will also link the video in the description. I highly encourage you to check it out because I cannot feasibly film doing it. He has it on the table and he explains it very well, just better than me. So I will go over the gist of it though under here. Also, my slave cylinder is different from his. You cannot see anything because my phone is too dark. Give me a second while I grab a light source. Alrighty. So we have here the transmission. Now, right there is my slave cylinder in this orientation. Get back here. Now, this is the hydraulic line. This is receiving the pressure from the master cylinder. It pushes pressure through. It pushes a piston, just like your brakes. It pushes a piston out backward towards the rear of the car, and this rod will come back and push this shift fork, push it backwards, which will do this into the bell housing and push that pressure plate to the front of the vehicle, which will release pressure from the flywheel. And that is how your slave cylinder works. So what I did, and I got it from his video, I just removed these two bolts. I took the pin out, which I need to put back in after I find it on the ground here somewhere. I took the pin out and I took this pivot pin out, these two bolts off, and took this down as a unit. I did not disconnect this. I took this slave cylinder down as a unit. And then you take this boot off, which is not hard because it's dry. What you do is you have somebody standing at the master cylinder with brake fluid ready in hand. I used DOT4. The car calls for DOT3. They're similar enough. But you want to have not DOT5 at all. You want to have your proper DOT fluid, your brake fluid, with a helper handy at the master cylinder to keep it full. So what you will do is you will build some pressure with the clutch pedal, and then you'll just push on the clutch pedal a bit, and then you'll come down here, you'll take this, and then with a socket, you will push, you'll crack open the bleeder valve, and then you will push the cylinder all the way down with your socket. I used this cylinder was a little bit stuck. It's been sitting for a few years, so I couldn't push it with my hand. I used a C-clamp, clamped on the flat back here. It is flat on the back here. There's a little flat space behind. I put the hard jaw of the C-clamp over here, and I put the dynamic actually inside where the piston is. And I just cranked it down, pushed the piston back, which pushes the fluid out of here. And then you close the bleeder, and you will, ideally, its pressure will push the piston back out. Mine did not, so my brother from Wrenchant was pushing on the pedal while I released the clamp to let the cylinder, or let the piston come back out. Now, while you're doing that, we did it a little bit at a time. because as the piston comes back out, it's pulling fluid from the master cylinder. And as it does that, the master cylinder will get empty. If you let it get empty, it will become full of air. And if it becomes full of air, now you have air in your line. And you will have to completely restart the whole bleeding process. So you want to have somebody there to keep the master cylinder full while you bring this piston back to the open end of the cylinder, and then you'll do it again. You'll crack this open, you'll push the piston back, crack it closed, and then bring the piston back to you while keeping the master cylinder full. It should only take about 4 times. You should get all the air out of it. Mine already had fluid in it. The master cylinder was just dry. It bled out pretty quickly, and I have pressure, and it works. So not a hard job. It is fairly simple. I highly recommend watching his video, and I will link that. So let me crawl back out from under here. Oh. Now I'm going to get set up for my first project, which is going to be these limiting straps right here. I'll put this in my tripod here. Yes, I know I'm not a professional YouTuber, so bear with me. Alrighty. Brighten this up a bit. Put you in a place where you can see. There we go. That's a good spot. So we need to see what size bolts these are. Now what I like to do is start guessing. It's not a 13. It is a 15. Lucky. Now I will have to, actually, what are the odds that it is the same size at the top? The odds are very small indeed. 0, in fact. Ah, that is a 13. And that is a 13. Which means I have to employ the second hand known as box wrench. which may be easier said than done. Now, we are going to do this the right way, which is using power tools. Always use power tools. Alright, there's 2 washers there. And somewhere there is a nut. Yes. And now we will switch to the 13. And proceed to not be able to fit this impact in here at all. Well, didn't need the wrench. If you can work on a uniform surface, it would be advisable to do so. Otherwise, you will end up, the poor man, searching for his nuts in the grass. Ah, yes. It is. Now this one only has a singular. Yes. I do believe that I need a jack because I need to relieve pressure on this bit. And it's gotten darker. Okay, so pardon where the previous section just cut off. I ran into an issue, and you know, it's been basically I'm in a different place, different time. I'm now filming the other half of the video. The car, as you can see, is now in my personal garage, not at my brother's house. So I have hard floor to work on, and everything major that I didn't want to do in here is now finished. The tires are on, the fuel tank is installed. Now, of course, I have the oil pan off.
which I will explain, because this video isn't really, as I previously stated, isn't really going to be a part one per se. I haven't really been able to film everything that I've done, so this is kind of just, a bit of a recap, what I have done so far. So what I have done is, the gentleman that I bought this car from actually came by a few days ago to assist with the trouble of the fuel pump wire. I wasn't getting any power on the fuel pump, and we spent an hour or so tracing the wires, testing power and ground, fuses, all of that such. Turned out to be the inertia switch, the fuel cutoff switch under the dashboard, which I had previously checked. Maybe I checked it wrong, but that was the issue. So I have over here not the original, but an SU fuel pump. It is a bit stuck. I think just from sitting for several years, it works, but like very barely. So it doesn't really work. So I think these diaphragms have had it. I'm gonna have to get a rebuild kit, which is about $100 from Moss. But in the meantime, what I have done is I have installed the Facet Cube. Yes. It is plumbed into the hard lines, and the other banjo lines have just been removed. They would have needed to be replaced anyway. They're a bit hard. So these got drilled out. These are some rubber grommets to prevent chafing of the rubber line and atmosphere isolation. So, and it is a pretty form fit as well, so that's pretty sealed there. So that's got a grommet, that's got a grommet. This just goes down to the hard line to the tank. This goes down to the hard line running to the engine. Just plumbed into the factory lines. Getting my tripod in the way. I will be fixing the SU, so it will go back in there. Does not hurt to have two fuel pumps, especially on these old cars. These are simply some rubber, they're 3/4 inch with 1/4 inch holes, rubber washers. They're about 1/8 thick, and they are 3/4 wide with a 1/4 inch hole, because these are 1/4 inch bolts. I have done 3 of those. They have compressed just a little bit, but now that pump is solid and also isolated. It is a bit loud, as people have said, and I don't care because I have an Anza race exhaust on here. Not my doing. But that is plumbed in. The power works then. So that is fuel pump. That is my entire fuel system arranged. Now, I do have, or I have done the part. I'm in the garage and I don't have a real LED light yet. I have done that fuel line right there because that one was a bit hard. I actually had to, this line was not directly above the bottom hard line. It actually came out at an angle kind of just behind it. So I actually took a wrench, slid it up here and just kind of bent it here and then here and then here and then here, trying not to crease it, but I bent this line down more, so now it's more in line and it's not going to put any undue stress on this rubber line like it did on the old one. The old one was a bit stretched out because this line was pushing on it. So new line, fixed that hard line so it's now more in line. That little section of rubber behind the filter is new, not as kinked as the old one was. And this section going to the carburetor is now new as well. So that takes care of the entire fuel system. I have cleaned the carburetor out. I don't know what tuning it's on. I haven't been able to run it yet, but that should be in order, I should be able to get it to at least start. In other words, or in other news, I have retimed this engine, so the distributor is on time now, set to 10 degrees before top dead center, which is recommended. The plugs have been brushed and gapped. I will do new plugs eventually, but for now they've been brushed and gapped. The firing order is in time, and everything is in order. Now, underneath here, I have taken out get my light out of the way. I have taken out the oil pan, as you can see. That is because the oil pan gasket was a bit gone, and it was leaking everywhere, as you can see. That's all just what came out of while it was sitting here. So I have cleaned this up. The oil pan is now clean. It has been painted with some high heat, the 600 degree engine enamel paint. All of the bolts have also been done. So now, the only thing I am waiting on to get this car running at this current time is the new silicon oil pan gasket from Real Gaskets in Tennessee. Not sponsored. They make silicon gaskets, and it wasn't that expensive, but I'm glad I paid the extra money for a silicon gasket, because I don't like cork gaskets, I don't like paper gaskets, I don't like any gasket that gets hard and brittle and you have to scrape off with a razor blade, or that you have to use RTV to seal. The silicon gaskets don't need all of that. They're washable, reusable, and they last a long time if you don't over torque on them. And should seal better. Of course, they didn't have the silicon gaskets in 1976, so this is a bit of a modern upgrade for this car. But I have a fuel pump. I have all of my rubber lines replaced. Everything is in order. The lights work a bit. I need to replace some signal bulbs. But mostly everything works. It's really not in bad shape, and it should be drivable as soon as I get a gasket for that, get the oil pan back on, and I have some oil here. I am going to be using the Valvoline VR1 2050 because the VR1 has the zinc that these flat tap engines need. Now, about the original outdoor section of this video, I was doing the limit straps, the axle limit straps, and if you can see there, it is snapped. It's right there. Right there. Snapped. Because it turns out these were just rubber and the axle was just too much for them. So I did do that little tutorial on how to change these straps, and as it happens, they snapped. So I will be redoing those with nylon straps, and I suggest that you do the same because these are crap. So let me get up. So that's about what I have so far. Just to go over everything again. Oh yes, the fuel tank is installed, new hardware. This ended up being the wrong tube because with this angled fuel neck, the older style would have had an angled one here as well. So this would have gone down, this was angled, and it would have just been a little short section of straight tube connecting this angled bit and this angled bit. But I have this one because I have the newer model, or the newer style. And so this new rubber I made work. I mean, it's a bit stretched, but it's on, it fits, it works, and it will be fine for me. Although this is at a bit of an angle, it'll be all right. So the straps snapped, so I'll be doing nylon on those. Fuel tank is in, all new hardware. The rubber straps underneath there are all in, so it is on. It is isolated. A new fuel pump installed. The fuel pump wire is now powered. The carburetor is cleaned. All of the rubber fuel lines are new, and the timing and all of the electrics are good. So, oil pan gasket, put the oil pan on, fill it with oil, put some gasoline in here, and I should have a runner. Because I didn't show this, I wasn't able to film it, but I did get these front brakes bled out. They were stuck, and when my brother and I were pulling it off of the dolly to get it in this garage, I pushed so hard on the brake pedal that I felt it lurch. And what happened was I stepped so hard on it that the pressure was able to overcome whatever hard matter was clogging the lines to the calipers. So I eventually went back and I bled through. I bled them out until they were all clear fluid. And I don't have my light over here right now, but this fluid, as you can see right there, is the line of the fluid. It's all clear. The clutch is bled, and I'll link the Red Scorpion video so that you can get the proper tutorial on that. The brakes bled out just fine. They have all new pads. The rear are drums. I've taken the right side off. The drums were not too bad. And the drums don't really do anything anyway on a car this small. The front brakes pretty much do all the work as it is. And drum brakes are crap. So it is a work in progress. This isn't going to be a part one. This is kind of just another fill in. I don't know if there will be any parts as this project wears on. I think I'm just going to do things in just bits and pieces, and you'll just have to follow along as you will. So there it is. In the meantime, I'm waiting on an oil pan gasket, and hopefully in the next week I will have a first start video for you guys. So thank you. Like, subscribe, comment if you wish, and thank you for watching Tibian's Garage.